Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to look at someone you probably remember from history class, but we are going to see him in a completely new light. We're introducing Socrates, not just as some ancient philosopher wandering around in a toga, but as history's ultimate leadership consultant. We're going to explore exactly how his 2,400-year-old mindset remains incredibly applicable to the daily pressures of modern life, especially when it comes to leading teams and maintaining your professional integrity.
It's a pretty striking question, isn't it? I mean, what can a man with no wealth, no power, and absolutely no conventional beauty teach us about modern professional success? In today's business world, we so often confuse success with worldly status. The right job title, the massive funding rounds, the visual optics. Socrates, he had none of that. Yet, the enduring, world-changing power of his structured thinking completely outlasted all the wealthy kings and powerful warriors of his entire era. He relied purely on his mind, his character, and his methodology.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. Number 1, the first leadership consultant. Number 2, character over superficial metrics. Number 3, mastering patience under pressure. Number 4, building truth-seeking teams. And number 5, integrity over easy exits.
Section 1. The first leadership consultant, 2,400 years of relevance. More than 2 millennia ago, this ordinary man walked the streets of Greece, armed with a revolutionary way of analyzing the world that modern leaders desperately need to cut through today's complex corporate noise.
Moving right along to Section 2, character over superficial metrics, or as we like to call it, the Socratic mirror.
So one day, Socrates was just looking at his reflection in a pool of water. A student standing right behind him saw Socrates' famously unhandsome face and actually started laughing at him. Now, just imagine a junior team member openly mocking a senior leader today. You'd expect a massive reprimand, right? Well, instead of getting angry, Socrates turns around with complete, absolute calmness. He brilliantly explained that his unattractive face was just a daily reminder that he must do beautiful things in life, so his character becomes more beautiful than his appearance. And for beautiful people, he said they must constantly guard themselves, making sure their bad actions never make their outward beauty totally meaningless.
Let's translate this directly to the modern workplace, because it is so incredibly easy to get caught up in optical, superficial success. We're talking vanity metrics, social media clout, or just, making a project look really good on a slide deck while the actual foundation is crumbling. Socrates is urging leaders to prioritize substantive team character over those empty vanity metrics. Look, what your team actually does is infinitely more important than how your team looks from the outside. You've got to focus on actions, build true character within your ranks, and just completely ignore that superficial noise.
All right, Section 3, Mastering Patience Under Pressure, featuring the infamous hot water incident.
If you think your workplace is stressful, picture this scene. Socrates is outside, deep in a highly complex discussion with his students. His wife calls him inside, but he is in such a deep work mode that he completely ignores her. Eventually, she storms outside and literally dumps a pitcher of hot water right over his head. His students are just bracing for an absolute explosion of rage, but instead, Socrates calmly wipes the water off his clothes, smiles, and says, "After thunder comes the rain." He recognized the emotional buildup, and he simply accepted the outburst without letting it derail his own internal state.
This right here is what we define as Socratic patience. For the modern manager, this is absolutely the ultimate form of emotional intelligence and self-control in high-pressure situations. Think about the proverbial hot water that gets poured on you daily. Sudden, impossible deadlines, maybe some unfair criticism, or unexpected team conflicts. Socrates believed fundamentally that a leader who cannot control himself can never become truly great. If you just react to every single stressful stimulus with anger, you lose your authority and you lose your clarity. Socratic patience, that is your true competitive advantage.
Section 4. Building truth-seeking teams by questioning the crowd.
You see, Socrates didn't just stand around teaching facts. He constantly pushed his followers to think for themselves rather than just blindly following the crowd. He was literally the ultimate disruptor of the status quo. Now, you've likely heard his famous quote, "An unexamined life is not worth living." Well, let's apply that professionally. An unexamined workflow is not worth doing. Blind consensus, that whole because we've always done it this way mentality, and yes men cultures, they are absolutely toxic to true progress. If your team is just nodding along with every single thing you say, they aren't examining the work, and you are basically flying blind into a potential failure.
So, to combat that toxic consensus, let's build a practical Socratic framework for managers. Step 1. Avoid the crowd. You really want to encourage your team to challenge industry trends. Step 2. Question everything. Reward team members who actually ask why, respectfully but firmly, during your meetings. And Step 3. Search for truth. Base your project pivots on actual data and honest feedback, not just what the highest paid person in the room wants to hear. This is exactly how you build a resilient, innovative, truth-seeking team.
And finally, Section 5, Integrity over Easy Exits and the Ultimate Dilemma. So, because he taught his team to question authority, the powerful people of his time actually sentenced Socrates to drink poison. But the night before his execution, some influential friends secretly sneaked into his cell, offering him a super easy escape out of the country. Talk about the ultimate professional dilemma. If he chose to escape and survive, sure, his body would live, but his soul, his integrity, and literally everything he stood for would die, because he'd be a massive hypocrite running from the very laws he respected. But if he stayed and drank the poison, his body dies, but his beliefs live forever. He made the hard choice. He chose to let his body die, picking up that cup of poison with his very own hands.
A man died, absolutely, but his ideas, they became immortal. Think about the enduring result of that kind of ultimate integrity. Entire kingdoms have disappeared. Civilizations have completely changed. Centuries have passed us by. But Socrates, he lives on. Why? Because he chose character over an easy exit. Now, in our careers, we are rarely faced with a literal life or death choice, thankfully, but we are constantly faced with a choice between an easy, maybe slightly unethical exit and standing firm in our professional integrity.
Which brings us to our final thought. If your professional legacy was measured only by your character and integrity, not your bank account, not your flashy job title, not your vanity metrics, what would your reflection look like today? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Take that question with you into your very next meeting and start leading with the clarity of Socrates.